Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on the impact of COVID on education in Brazil. It's 6 p.m. London time. It's 1 p.m. Central Eastern. So I know that there's many other things that you could be doing, but I promise you will not regret taking this hour with us. We have some terrific content to share, and we have panelists across London, New York, and Rio de Janeiro. My name's Adam Human. I'm Empower's Vice President of Development and Communications. Empower is massively excited to host this webinar series in partnership with Citi. This is the first of 3 webinars that we're going to do together. And what we're seeking to do is tell the untold stories about the pandemic. We're really honored to be doing this with our partner, Citi for Education. We are thrilled that this is the 9th year of our partnership together. And Fernanda and all the Citi folks on the call, I want to say how grateful we are for Citi's phenomenal support. Of course, the financial support, but also the partnership that we have together that is instrumental to achieving some of the things we'll hear about today. A big welcome to our panelists, Mayra Gabriel from Redes da Maré, Danielle Barnetti, Empower's Latin America expert, and Fernanda Mitri from Citi. Everyone knows on this call the devastation that COVID-19 is continuing to make in countries around the world, particularly in emerging markets. What we'll dive much deeper into in this webinar is about the hidden impacts of COVID-19, specifically in Latin America. What's happened in communities that were already marginalized before the pandemic began? What's been the experience? What's been the reality for young people in those communities? In the communities that Empower work in, young people were already experiencing multiple barriers in their lives way before the pandemic. Barriers to education, barriers to securing employment, barriers of violence in their homes and in their communities. Those barriers have multiplied many, many times over during the pandemic. It's now estimated that in many areas, only 1 out of 3 won't return to school. But we'll also see the incredible resilience of young people and the resilience of organizations who are working with them, particularly at the local level. A few housekeeping points. This webinar will be recorded and available later on. We would love to have your questions and interactions throughout. Please submit these at any time using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. If you'd like to, you can also note who you'd like the question to be answered from. Now I'm glad to welcome Fernanda Mitri, Managing Director at Citigroup Global Markets. Fernanda is a leader at Citi. She's been with the firm for 15 years, and we're thrilled to have her speak on Citi's E for Education campaign. Thank you so much for joining us, Fernanda.
Thank you, Adam. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this session. Citi for Education is happy to sponsor this webinar series in partnership with Empower. I'm happy to share more about this campaign that we at Citi are extremely proud of. Citi for Education was created in 2013 by the firm's FX division to raise awareness and funds for education-focused nonprofits and to improve access to quality education. This initiative has grown incredibly since 2013. Growing from our FX division, I'm thrilled that our campaign now runs across our entire markets business. This year, we've added 3 new partners to our Global Charity Alliance, now 13 strong. Together, we're making a huge impact. Our 2020 campaign raised a record of $9.7 million for education-focused nonprofits around the world. Together, we have raised over $47 million since 2013, supported over 785,000 students and 31,000 schools across 84 countries. Citi established the E for Education Progress Award scholarships for students, and we have hired 2 scholars out of the Citi's full-time analyst class. We're glad to have partnered with Empower since the start of the E for Education campaign. It's been gratifying to see the incredible impact we have helped young people achieve together. Through Citi's support of Empower, over 125,000 young people have been directly impacted around the globe, including over 70,000 girls. These young folks have been able to stay in school, improve their educational outcomes, learn 21st century skills like computers, and receive high quality education that is relevant for their lives, which means they're more prepared for a successful future ahead. This year, we plan to support even more young folks. The 2021 campaign is happening now. From Tuesday, September 7th, throughout a period of 8 weeks, concluding on October 29th, the E4Education campaign will donate a portion of the trade to 13 nonprofit organizations, including Empower. The business clients do with Citi during the campaign period will automatically help us continue to change lives all over the world. We're looking forward to sharing more about Empower's work today and the impact we can have together. Now I'll turn back to you, Adam. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fernanda. The Citi for Education initiative has been truly a game changer for Empower and our work in education. I'm truly excited to be in this with you. As you say, 125,000 young people have been directly impacted by this grant over the 9 years, and that's an incredible record. Our world at Empower is all about making sure that young people who are living at the margins have the skills, have the opportunities, and have the power to reach their potential. Empower partner with nearly 100 local organizations across 15 emerging market countries, which you can see in the map. Each of these partners have deep roots in their communities. We ensure that money raised through the Citi for Education campaign gets through to the right places, that the funds make an immediate impact in the lives of young people. And we build long-term relationships, 10-year relationships, and that's really unusual in the work we do. And that long-term approach really helps our partners do what they do even better. And it helps bring about change that can be sustained into the long term. During lockdowns and during the travel restrictions of the last 18 months, the local organizations that we're talking about were sometimes the only ones, the only way that support could get through. In times of extraordinary need, unprecedented need, our partners have had to pivot away from their usual activities like skilling, social entrepreneurship, and others, sometimes to meet basic needs such as food aid. At Empower, we've de-restricted funding and provided emergency funding for them to do so. But the needs of young people in emerging markets is changing. And we know that because we've asked them directly. We believe that young people are the experts on their own lives. They are the ones who are best positioned to inform practitioners, to inform policymakers on the changes that they want to see. The title of this webinar series is COVID in Her Voice, because this is the title of the research led by girls themselves. Using a very innovative methodology called the participatory action research, adolescent girl leaders interviewed their own peers across 7 different locations. They asked what their worries were, what their challenges are, how to overcome them. And the strategic recommendations come from the girls themselves. What those young women told us is that this is a pivotal moment. They told us that they're worried about their education. They're worried about their opportunities. They told us about an increased pressure to get married. They told us about the problems of online access, with only 30% being able to access it all. They told us the need for a deepened focus on mental health. But they told us most of all that in order to realize any of these suggestions, the very first step is a seat at the table. They told us that actually what we need to do is unlearn some of the things that have not been effective until now. We need to build back in a more inclusive way that puts young people, that puts particularly girls at the center. it is their own voices, it's their own leadership that must ultimately forge the way forward. I'm thrilled to welcome Danielle Parnetti, Empower's Senior Program Officer for Latin America, who develops and leads Empower's grantee partnerships in Mexico, Colombia, Brazil, Peru, and Argentina. He will be interviewing our special guest today. And Mayra Gabriel is the Community Development Program Manager of Redes da Maré in Brazil. Redes da Maré is an Empower grantee partner working in the largest favela complex of Rio de Janeiro. She will share more about their work with you. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to you, Daniel.
Thank you, Adam, very much. And I'm really glad to be here today to share a conversation that I had a few days ago with one of our inspiring grantee partners, Redes da Maré, which I believe showcases some of the amazing work that we support in partnership with Citi in our education portfolio. Redes da Maré is one of the 5 strong and amazing organizations that we currently support in Brazil, and all of these organizations are based in the state of Rio de Janeiro. And Redes da Maré, as its name indicates, operates in Maré, which some of you may know is the biggest complex of favelas in Rio, with a population of approximately 140,000 people. They are a quite unique organization because they are very grassroots. They were founded and continue to be operated by favela residents. And at the same time, they are highly professional and have a very significant presence and impact in the community that they serve. When I visited them for the first time a couple of years ago, I was especially impressed by the fact that they have headquarters and locations that are spread all over Maré. And they are clearly a key player, in their community. They are very well known by all residents, and the residents rely on them. They are an intrinsic and integral part of the community. The program that we support in partnership with Citi is helping 200 young people who are fairly young, between the ages of 13 and 16, and the majority of them being female, receive the support that they need to do 3 things. Number 1, to improve their academic performance. Number 2, and related to the first one, to graduate from middle school. And number 3, to successfully transition to high school. And we know that this transition is a very important time in their life, because when this transition occurs is when the highest levels of school dropouts are registered. How is Redes da Maré doing this? They do it by providing after-school 3-hour-long classes that run from Monday through Friday throughout the academic year. So it's a very intense program. And young people receive support in reading and writing, in mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, and geography. And in addition to this, they also are able to develop their core life skills like critical thinking, effective communication, and coping with stress and emotions, which we know are critical to learning, but also to overall well-being. And they also receive psychological support and access to comprehensive sexuality education and gender equity training. So as you can see, their program has a holistic approach that goes well beyond focusing exclusively on formal education. For instance, Redes da Maré intentionally includes a comprehensive sexuality education component in their program because, as you may know, teenage pregnancy rates in Latin America, and especially in places like Maré, in favelas, in Brazil and elsewhere, continue to be the highest in the world, second only to sub-Saharan Africa. Likewise, they intentionally include a psychological support component in the program, which is key for guaranteeing that young people don't drop out of school. And this component has become even more important in the context of the pandemic, with all of the emotional health issues that have erupted as a result of the pandemic. So now, to delve into this, I would like to share my conversation with Mayra, who, as Adam said, is the Community Development Program Manager at Redes da Maré. So I hope you enjoy it, and I'm going to be here available to answer any questions that you may have. I'd like to welcome Maria Gabriel. She's the Community Development Program Manager from Redes da Maré. So thank you, Maria Gabriela, for making the time to participate in this event. And I want to start by asking you a couple of questions that I believe would be of interest to our audience. So to begin with, I wonder if you could tell us what life is like for young people in Maré, and more specifically, if you could tell us if there are any challenges that girls in particular face.
Hi, Daniel. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me today. Let me try to answer your question. Well, before describing how is life to a young people in Maré, I think it's important maybe to describe a little bit what is Maré. Maré is a favela, and I know that there is a lot of things that appears in our mind when we say favela. It's the biggest favela in the city of Rio. We are talking about a place where more than 140,000 people live. And that's important because it's placed Maré in a scale of a city. Maré is biggest than 90% of the city in Brazil. The population of Maré is mostly young. More than 50% of the people has less than 30 years. That's important because it's a huge challenge for education when we work in the education field. Also is living in a place in families that lives with less than 2 minimum wages. It's a very small amount of money to a family. So the parents, when they work in 2-3 jobs. So they have less time to look after the children. And so it's very common to see young children taking care of little less young children. That's very, very impactant when you go to Maré. And I think something that's very important is that it is a space regulated by armed groups. And so where the rates of armed violence are extremely high. And in the case in terms of education, especially if you look like a young person in Maré, I think it's important to say 2 or 3 things. First of all, you have to face a huge turnover of teacher and all the school staff. And we know the studies shows that it's very important the permanency of staff, school staff to the students' performances. You have school without math teacher for more than 1 year. You have bad structure, bathroom with no water, no libraries, no computer rooms. And if you look at the profile of educational profile from people from Maré, you have less than 40% that had completed elementary school. And you have a huge rate of people from 50 to 19 that dropped school. So we know that we have a problem between the elementary school and the middle school. Like we know that here we face a huge challenge in Maré. And you ask me what kind of challenges girls face in particular, I think. Maybe I can point out 3. I think like I don't have the number exactly, but we know that we have a huge rate of pregnancy in the teenage girls. I absolutely like of education, sex education at schools. I think another problem is that girls and young women have the responsibility of household and childcare duties in the families. So they have to struggle between school time and domestic life. That's something that really has an impact. And I think also something that is not really talked about, we can measure that, and we know that sexual assaults really like happen in domestic contexts, very young, that is very massive. And we know that that also has an impact in educational. So we can measure it, but we know that it's like that happened, and that happens a lot with girls and young women in Mare. I think I answered your question.
Yes, no, that's great, and it's very comprehensive, and I thank you for that. And we will discuss this in a bit, but one of the things that I really like about the program that we are supporting with Redes da Maré is that it focuses not only on helping young people improve their academic performance, but it also has a very strong component of comprehensive sexuality education to prevent teenage pregnancies and STIs, sexually transmitted infections. And it also has a very strong component of gender equality and working not only with young people on these issues, but also involving parents and caretakers and other community members, which are key for young people to succeed in these areas.
Exactly.
So moving on, and as we all very well know, COVID is wreaking havoc around the world, but it has been a real tragedy in Latin America. Some of you may know that Latin America accounts for 8% of the world population, but in terms of COVID-related deaths, the region is very much overrepresented. Latin America accounts for roughly a third of all COVID-related deaths. And we also know that Brazil has seen a very significant impact COVID-wise, with high levels of infection, mortality rate, adjusted by population, etc. So all of this to ask you how COVID has affected young people and the community in Mare, including parents, teachers, etc. If you could give us a bit of a description on this.
Yes, as Daniel said, it was a tragedy, COVID, in Latin America and in Rio. And it's fundamental to say that COVID came to highlight the structural and prior and huge social inequalities in the city of Rio. And we know that the impact was worse in place with, as I was describing, poor urbanization, poor sanitation, poor public services, high unemployment, and high informal jobs that were directly affected by the pandemic crisis. So it was a health crisis, but maybe what shocked us is that we saw like very quickly that it was a humanitarian crisis in Mare. Like since March 2020, very quickly we had to reorganize all our activity to address an answer to what we begin to see that we were not seeing for a long time, and that is hungry. Like family were hungry, and parents and students of our program was asking for help to eat, to get food. So we create a campaign called Maré Says No to Corona. And we were able to give food basket for more than 17,000 families. And it was like a really hard work, and it was really shocking. I think we worked like for a long time in development, community development with educational program, but we were not an assistantialist organization that gave food. And to face the COVID crisis, we had to like reprogram ourselves, and it was a huge challenge. It was very sad. So that was one of the dimensions, and it was also an education crisis because just all the schools, the public schools, shut down during the COVID. So since March 2020, more than 20,000 students in Mare were out of school. And the idea was to migrate to an online education, but concretely what's that means for territory as Mare. Like the school were not ready, the teacher were not ready, the parents were not ready, the students were not ready. We know that less than half of the families has access to internet or has a device that could have access to internet. When they have, the internet is not good. When the internet is good, it's very expensive. So they share between the sister, the brother, the mother. So how you can like manage to have half of the day to dedicate to studying? When you don't have, sometimes you don't have place at your home to study, because the kitchen and the room and the place that your grandmother stays is the same. So it was like, okay, so it's online education now, but we are far to be ready. So the truth is that the 20,000 students of Maré were without education during 1 year at least. We have to face that fact. That's the reality. So we really like made like enormous effort to help like support some families, the program that empower support maintain their activities online. We migrate to online. We made a campaign to have funds to buy tablets, access to internet. We know that now the digital inclusion will be one of a big part of our education program. It's inevitable. We have to organize it, understand how we're going to do that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that, Maida. And to add to what you say, even if you are lucky enough to have internet access or to have the devices that you need at home, and you can afford to have your own computer and not having to share with your siblings, we now know that online learning is far away, far in terms of how effective it is compared to in-person learning. So,
and also, exactly, in school, in such context, is so much than like just learning. In Brazil, the school give one daily food for the children, so they lost one secure food by day. It's also a place where you can find a social worker, so, and the program, as we're going to speak after, helped also with the lack of this other element that the school offered to the children, no?
Absolutely. So we are starting to touch on the issue of education, which is key. And I think this is a good segue to ask you what Redes da Maré is doing to support young people, specifically in their education. As you have been saying, Latin America is facing the biggest education crisis ever seen in a region that was already doing very poorly in this area. And as you have rightly said, most schools have been closed for more than a year now because of COVID. And in most countries in our region, schools have yet to fully reopen. So support to young people in school age becomes much more important in this context. So tell us what you're doing to support young people in this area.
Redes da Maré is a community-based organization that was funded by people who were born and live in Maré. And the fight for right to education is at the origin of the creation of the organization that has now more than 20 years. The first project was like back in the early 90s, was about helping young people to enter in public university. And it's a project that is still carry on and help to the day of, like until today, to put more than 1,000 of young people in public university in Brazil. So mostly one of the objective, like the reason to be of Redes da Maré, is to understand how we can extend the school time of our young people in Maré. So we have several projects that cover the educational trajectory of young, like from nursery to university. We give support to good students to help them to go to better public schools. We also have projects with children that drop school to understand how we can reintegrate them to schools. We work into the schools with the community of teachers, with the management. We work with parents but always in dialogue with the state. I think it's important to say that. We understand that we have to pressure the state to guarantee the right to education, for a good education in Maré, by constructing schools, training teachers, and investing in education programs that could maintain and make return children to schools. In the case of the program that I want to talk to you, that is supported by Empower, we work specifically with young adolescents from 13, 16, in this moment when, as we were talking of the elementary to the middle school, that we know that it's a moment of where a lot of children drop out of school. So the idea, and as you said, is to work in an integral way around a lot of different issues that involve the children at this moment of his school and lifetime. We know that work with education in such context as Maré is work with social issues, with mental health issues, with a lot of others, with health, basic health, teeth problems, like very basics and very complex issues, and not work only with academic performances. So we have this understanding, like large understanding of what is an education program for young people. So concretely, what we do in the program is like we offer 3 hours classes every day after school to support every discipline that they have in school. So math, Portuguese, history, and so on. But we also, as you said very perfectly, we have a lot of other skills classes like gender equalities, we have sexual and reproductive health, but also how to deal with emotions, how to deal with frustration, how you can also like allow yourself to dream more than your fathers and mothers. That's a really huge issue, that authorize yourself, allow yourself to be more that socially that your father, for instance, for a young man. So you have a lot of other class conversation. We have a support of a social worker and a psychologist that can help with specific cases, but also with collective dialogue. So the program is basically that. It's understanding that work with education is not only performance academic, it's also that, but it's not just that. We have to help like an integral development of the child to make sure that he can make this transition between the elementary to the middle school. And we had to obviously to adjust some things of the program during the pandemic. So we migrate to online classes. So we support the access to internet, and also to make sure that they had access, and computer or smartphone to have access. As I said, we support the family that were more in need. And I think it's important to say that when we speak with that was fundamental, like very crucial for the students to have this link with the institution, with the school, with the teacher. And somehow the program became like a safe space and a space of care during the pandemic. And that was fundamental to maintain the relation with the school life and the education. And that was like maybe the most return that we have, like from the children. Like thank you, because you helped me like to maintain my, yes, more than my relation with the school, but my integrity during the pandemic, like my mental health, basically.
Oh, thank you. And to add on what you said, the program is highly successful. All of the young people who are part of the program do very well academically. They move on, they pass to the next grade. So highly successful, and we are very happy to support. And as you rightly said, everything in that program is built around improved academic performance, but it's that you guys have a holistic approach. And one of the things that participants, young people who participate in the program value a lot is the psychological support that they receive. It's important, I think, to share with the audience that these are young people who are transitioning into their adolescence, and that comes with a lot of baggage and a lot of challenges. And offering psychological support, we know it's key to the success of the program. But also this value add that the program has in terms of offering psychological support has become even more important in the context of the pandemic. Yeah. And one other component of the program that I like a lot and that struck me when I visited Maré for the first time is the citizenship component. For me, it was hard to understand how residents of a favela that is part of the city are so confined to the favela, and the only thing that they know is the favela itself, and they don't go out. They don't know very well known cultural spaces of Rio. Some of them haven't even visited the beach. Being in Rio is hard to believe, but Redes da Maré is very successful in organizing these cultural visits to iconic places in the city and to making young people feel part of the city and feel that that is at their disposal, and that there should be no barriers for their growth and for their dreams. So
yes, I think it's like, just to complete, I think it's like how they part of the city, how they part of more in the city. You know, there is a lot, like there's a word. And like for that, international partnership are very interesting because we can explain that like we are like in a huge network, but also something important, I think, is how feel them like proud of where they come, because as you said, they circulate not very much in the city because like of a lot of reasons, but sometimes they don't know the story of Maré, how Maré were created, why. What tells about the Brazilian history, the migration from the Northeast. So also a component of the program is like to share, like, because Maré is everything I told you today, that we are like facing these challenges, but there is a lot of others, like very rich component of being in a popular territory as Maré. As you know, when you visit, you can see it's like very dense and very like a lot of life, no? So the idea is also to go elsewhere and like say, they don't have to lie about the address they came from.
No, absolutely, and thank you for making that comment. So moving on, I wanted to ask you what you and Redes da Maré are most proud of over the past year, either how your program or the young people that you work with have responded to the challenges posed by the pandemic.
So we are extremely proud of the campaign we made. So the campaign Maré Says No to Corona is a huge campaign that we're proud because we worked a lot since March 2020. We are working very much. We change all our activities, our forms of working in a very short, like record time. We adapt, reorganize, we talk to our partner, and fortunately all of our partner, including you in Power, you were like very comprehensive and supporting. And we like the campaign is a reference today in Brazil, in Rio, to how a community can mobilize itself and really make an impact to reduce the harm and the impact of COVID. So we guarantee food safety for more than 17,000 families, more than 50,000 people. We guarantee access to healthcare by creating a COVID testing center and a safe isolation program. We guarantee also access to income for women, youth, by creating a project like to making masks. And now the last thing we've done, it's a huge vaccination campaign. We help the health agencies to do a vaccination campaign in Maré that allowed to vaccine like almost all the adults, like 36,000 people were vaccinated. In the education field, we really like opened this field of thinking digital inclusion in education. So we started offering tablets. We are like trying to have more funds to allow to offer this for more families and students. And I think like I think in the program, specifically, we are proud because we didn't lost anyone. So all the students in the program stayed in the program. They went to middle school, so they passed the year. So I think we made a lot of effort of adaptation, and we succeed in giving like what we were engaged with the students to give, and it was worth it.
No, well done. So to close this interview, which has been great, and I have learned quite a lot, I wanted to ask you, what do you hope for the future, for the near future?
Well, I think as everyone that this COVID crisis came to an end quickly, but more concretely, I think like the reopen of the school. I think we, as the Redes da Maré organization, we are very dynamic and we adapt very quickly. So we are thinking in how we're going to work according to how everything will go. And at least I think something I really hope is that Brazil, Rio and Marés will look carefully to those kids that have dropped school during this year because of the COVID. We really have to look who are they, where they are. It was already a dynamic of the territory, to lose kids at this moment, but during the pandemic, I think it was, yes, we don't know how to measure that, but we know that it was huge, and we really have to think how we can get them back to school.
Thank you, Mayra. And thank you again for sharing the amazing work that Redes da Maré does. And it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Bye.